The Anatomy of Life podcast is where we delve into the elements that shape our existence. This is your audio guide on all the building blocks of your life, relationships, your purpose, your mind, your body, and everything in between. Because at the core of it all is health, the foundation that shapes how we live, how we grow, and how we thrive. I'm your host, Lexi, and today we're joined by someone whose journey through wellness, movement, and healing is as grounded as it is inspiring. Mary Bugg, founder of the Simple Retreat, the stakeholder in the Path Yoga Center, and a dedicated neuromuscular therapist who's been transforming lives through mindful connection and holistic care. She's been a part of the Doha wellness scene for several years now, helping shape safe, soulful spaces where people can heal, grow, and truly connect and reconnect with themselves. Whether she's guiding a yoga class, holding space in a therapeutic session, or curating a deeply nourishing retreat, her work invites us to pause. Through her involvement in communities like Neo Yoga, Yellow Yoga, the Simple Retreat, and the Path Yoga Center, Mary has played an instrumental role in fostering connection, not just between people, but between body and mind, movement and meaning, self and community. In this episode, we'll explore Mary's journey into the world of yoga and bodywork, uncover the vision behind the spaces she's helped build, and hear her reflections on creativity, healing, and the unseen impact we all carry. So let's discover the wisdom and heart of Mary Bugg. This was a soulful and super fun and really engaging conversation. Have a listen. Mary, tell me all about Mary. What do you do currently as a profession? Where are you from? And how long have you been in Doha?
Okay. I've been in Doha. I think this is my 10th year of being in Doha. I was 10 years in Spain before here, 10 years in Spain, and before that, London, Southeast London. And gosh, Southeast London, yes. I don't have much of an accent anymore, but it comes and goes. When I speak to my sister and all right, how are you doing? It's interesting because people from the Southeast will recognize people from the Southeast. Yes. We have a real energy about us. We have a very particular approach to life. I think it's generational. Certainly in my generation, our parents went through the Blitz. Usually our parents had been evacuated. So there's a very different approach to life, which I think
live wholeheartedly and big.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely what had a consequence on subsequently moving through my life and learning the things that I've learned and becoming interested in the things I've become interested in. Yeah. I've got 2 children. I've got a 19-year-old and a 24-year-old. In 2000, my first pregnancy, my first daughter, Madeline, was stillborn. And that was a huge moment in my life where I had come so far in what had been happening in my life. We were newly married. Actually, 4 months before that, my mother-in-law had passed of cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
And so our real hope was this lovely baby that was coming in our new marriage. And she died. And I remember sitting in the hospital that morning after waking up from the delivery the night before and thinking, do you know, I haven't come this far to come this far. And something as beautiful and special as a baby can't be turned into a negative thing. I felt it so deeply in my heart.
Yeah.
And they brought the priest and they brought the psychologist and they brought the social worker and they wanted to see me have a big reaction. And I did have a big reaction. I felt the hormones.
Of course.
I felt the natural progression of grief. And it was a difficult couple of years, but underneath it all, my connection to a spiritual life grew. And that had become quite important and has really been a feature of everything I've done over the years.
Yeah.
I think community is a really important aspect of life.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, it takes a village, right?
I've got that written in my notes. It takes a village.
No way.
I wanted to have a little preparation for you, Lexi. So I really thought about where the theme of community and where does that come from? What does it mean? And I think the first community we experience in our lives is our family and our extended family and the village. Yeah. And so what is the influence that is building the neuroplasticity of the experience? Mm-hmm. And Influence translates as a neuroaesthetic. Everything you hear, everything you smell, everything you taste. I think the biggest factor in that is everything you hear and everything becomes a big marker. There's something called attachment theory.
We're going to talk about attachment theory, but I love where you're going and where you're starting with, because in one of my previous episodes, so for any of the listeners listening, in season 2, the bonus episode was about family, a circle of kin. And I shared a story about how my view on the world, how I showed up in the world, how I translated the world, was all based on the things in my family, in my kin, the village around, the community that I was brought up in. Because a lot of people think that I'm white and I'm not. And if you listen to that episode, it goes through my identity and how my attachment style, where it comes from, how I'm. So please divulge all that for us. That's really interesting.
I first really understood attachment theory, funnily enough, when it came to crafting stories of interest in this region. In my old profession, my corporate profession was the film industry.
Wow.
I was a professional in the film industry for 25 years. I was on the voting board of BAFTA. My particular role was script supervisor continuity, so I worked on lots of big productions in the UK. Incredible. I started out as a 17, 18-year-old kid, Pinewood Studios, Shepperton Studios. The first films I did, First Night with Richard Gere, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner, Sylvester Stallone, Judge Dredd, Interview with a Vampire, Tom Cruise.
I love Interview with a Vampire.
Let me tell you something about opportunity. Okay. So in those days, the big films were coming over to the UK from America because of something called a withholding tax, which meant when films released their budget to make a production, the withholding tax was put in so that they didn't lose part of the budget to tax immediately. So they could pay the tax out of the profit, so they had more money to make the production.
Cash flow.
That didn't happen in America, so they came to the UK. This was like mid-90s, early 90s. So now let me tell you 3 actors who have a little bit of a challenge in life in regarding their height.
Tom Cruise.
Richard Gere.
No, really?
Sylvester Stallone. And so the call went out in production. We want shorter people on set. I was running. I was a runner.
Yeah.
And so I luckily got onto some of these jobs just because I was a short person.
That is so hectic.
So you never see where an opportunity is going to come.
It's in the most unlikely places.
Correct.
100%.
Correct. Yeah. So I might have been banging on doors with my CV, trying to get a foot in the door at a production office, and then my height took me in the door.
Wow.
I didn't even know it was going to happen. Now, why did I start working on film? My background in my family, again, is in the creative arts. My father was a jazz musician.
I love jazz. It's one of my favorite forms of music.
My mother trained as an actress. Neither of my brothers have followed in that pathway, but my escape was a Saturday afternoon watching big Hollywood movies. I loved the big Hollywood movies with the technicolor and the escapism and the drama and the music. And I just loved the creation of that atmosphere and how it took me away from the experience I was having.
Okay.
Because I wasn't having a good experience.
Yeah.
My early years did not feel
healthy.
I didn't know those words at the time.
Yeah.
I'm 50. I was questioning how old I was yesterday.
I forgot how old I was this year. I thought it was a year older. And then I was like, no, you're not. I'm like, oh, great.
I know. I just won another year. I'm 54. And England in the 70s was not a place full of communication and emotional regulation.
Yeah.
So that's what I was coming from. And so I went to the film industry because it helped give me freedom and escapism. And it was a trauma response, actually, because the film industry is really hard work.
Yeah, I was going to say, it can be quite tough.
It's long hours. Yeah. It's hard work. So anyway, I found it hard to cope in lots of different ways. And I think when I was about 16, I found drugs.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice way to buffer everything that was going on.
Dull the pain or numb it.
Yeah. I was already using alcohol. And so between the age of 16 and 24, I actually spiraled into a significant situation of dysfunction. I ended up pretty much homeless.
Wow.
Pretty much disconnected from my family. Completely lost the relationship that was looking positive and useful. Walked off a film at Pinewood. Mary Riley, with John Malkovich, Julia Roberts, Glenn Close.
That's insane.
It was a disaster.
What a story.
And I was really desperate. I couldn't live with drugs and alcohol, and I couldn't live without drugs and alcohol. I'd come to
your
the end.
nemesis and your savior.
Yep. I'd come to the end of my chain there. And somebody reached out to me, a friend reached out to me, and he said, I recognize what you're going through and I relate to it. Do you want some help? And it was the first time anybody had offered me help or support. They weren't buying me a drink. They weren't buying me a drug. They didn't expect any kind of, I'm going to be honest here, sexual behavior.
Yeah.
You know, that was the early 90s. That was the situation as well. They were just literally freely offering a hand saying, do you want some help? I went along to something called Alcoholics Anonymous, and we went to Narcotics Anonymous as well.
Because of addiction. Yeah.
So my last drink or mind-altering substance was on June the 17th, 1995.
Wow.
So this year is my 30 years of sobriety.
Congratulations. That was your day of freedom.
Now, the reason I bring this in is because I walked into a room and I was surrounded by people that understood what was going on in my head. This was community.
They saw you.
Yeah. I didn't even know this at the time. This was 95.
Yeah. So imagine 95, not a lot of holistic talk.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah. There was nothing. Nothing. It's like there's no such thing. Get up and just fix yourself.
It was barely a mobile phone. You were lucky if you had an answer machine.
That was life.
And the telephone on the long extension.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's called a landline, guys.
Exactly.
It actually has a line.
So I found this community, and it opened up a part of me that I knew was there, but I couldn't connect to and I couldn't understand. And I now know it was a spiritual part of me. As a child, we had gone to Church of England. We won't talk about like 30 years of every breath that was taken and everything that happened. But that was the basis. That was the experience I had where I began to realize the importance of who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Because I had a very extreme example of being surrounded by addicts and alcoholics, and then being surrounded by recovering addicts and alcoholics who wanted to tap into a different part of themselves and live their life in a different way. And that was such an extreme situation. Now, remember, I was 24 years old. And what I now know is that my prefrontal cortex
was not developed. Yeah.
And I was searching for a sense of self. I was searching for a belief system. So up until the age of 13, apart from our prefrontal cortex, we also have something called, it's either the primary cortex or the neocortex. Now, this wires in when you're about 13, 14. This is something that gives you rationale and logic. Before that, you're functioning through your emotional system, your limbic system.
Where you are absorbing?
Where you're using your intuition. Your intuition and your instinct is raw. Everything is happening in front of you, but you've got no way of
articulating it.
Putting logic to it. I hate my mum. Why is she telling me off? Because she doesn't love me, right?
Yeah.
Now, when logic comes in, mum is telling me to do this because it's good for me.
Yeah. She cares about me. She cares about my safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I really liked what you said about you going to church and you're realizing there's people here that they don't really believe it either. We're just going along and right?
Yeah.
That is an instinct that is wired into you. Deeply inside, that's your intuition. Your logic overrides it.
Yes.
So now people like you and I that have decided to investigate holistic wellness spaces and move our lives in a different direction, not in a better direction,
just in a different
direction. We are learning to understand, to listen to that innate intuition that was there before the logic, before the controlled wiring of the influence that surrounded us.
You are saying, I took a deep breath there. You just said we are going back to our intuition, that raw intuition. At the start of the last season that has just passed, I did something called staring in the mirror. And when I was younger, and I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I hope I don't get emotional, I used to stare in the mirror. And I remember this so clearly. I think I was even younger I think I was 5 even.
Yeah.
And I would stare at this girl in the mirror. Wow. I would look at all the like little wrinkles on her face. Not that I had wrinkles, but in line, the color in my eyes, the way, the texture of my hair. I could almost look at her as a separate being. And I was just like, wow, who are you? Who are you in this body? And I was just like, where are you coming from? And I am going back to that little girl. And I'm just like, I'm sorry I left you standing in the mirror. I lost the days where I used to stare at my face.
Wow.
I went through a long period of time where I couldn't look in the mirror.
Yes.
Whereas when I was younger, I couldn't get away from the mirror. I was so intrigued by this person.
Wow.
So the fact that you've just said that, in that episode, I talk about going back to her, going back to that intuition, where I actually felt truth at that time.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to articulate it.
I think that's what we call inner child work now. I think that's what. So listen, inner child work is going back to the primal cortex and rewiring the intuition without the logic and rationale.
Okay.
Or going back to the inner child, having a conversation with the memory of the performance and behavior of that inner child and allowing them to understand the logic and rationale that has now come into life. That's what we call reparenting. Now, I'm fascinated by all of these things because wind it forward and the film industry gave me burnout. So I got to my mid-40s and I could see one of my kids was moving in a creative direction into film. And I wanted them to fly. I didn't want our relationship to be producer-creator. So I decided to step back and take some time so that our relationship would continue as mum and child. That child, I'll just give you some context when I refer to them as my child, is because they identify as non-binary, they, them. They were born assigned female, and has taken or is able, I don't know the right around that. They identify as non-binary now then. And I am so grateful that I've had the opportunity to be the mother of a son, the mother of a daughter, and I'm having the full life experience of being the mother of a transgender person. So I decided to step back. And this was in the summer, I think, of 2016 or 2017. And I dropped the kids off at a summer kid thing. It's August in Doha. It's maybe June. Yeah, I think it's June in Doha, beginning of the summer holidays. And it's hot as hot can be. And I was driving back. Then I saw this yoga studio was opening. And I stopped and I parked and I went in and I said, I want to do yoga classes. And the person standing there looked at me and she said, you've come to the right place. And that was Charlie de Rivas. If anyone was in Doha around that time, you'll remember Charlie and how amazing. She was a huge influence in making me feel I had somewhere to be. And I think, and I'd done yoga for years. Listen, part of the spiritual investigation that I was doing when I came into sobriety, let's say in 95, is I was told to find yoga classes and meditation, which in 95 was nowhere to be found.
I was maybe like, that's a tall order. Find yoga and meditation in 1995.
I found these little old ladies doing Iyengar yoga in the back of a gym. And I say little old ladies, they're probably the age I am now. And so I went along and joined them every Saturday and did 3 hours of pranayama and Iyengar and ropes and chairs. And oh my gosh. So I had a background in yoga, went to the studio, and she said, sign up for a month, come and try every class and just be free and open with it. And she took so much dogma away from the expectation of,
we need that.
So much permission. And so that was it. I then did a teacher training. I went to Bali, very coincidentally, Bali. Don't read anything into that, or maybe you could. I did a teacher training. I came back. I was asked to come in on the management team at Nia Yoga at that stage, which was really great. I'd had a lot of project management experience
and skill.
I think my creativity always came out in my sequences and my cueing. I think people really enjoyed listening to the narrative that I could assist them with getting into their minds, getting into their spirituality
and their bodies.
But I didn't really understand it. So then I was asked to help set up another yoga studio. It was part of a gym that at that time was called Warrior Monk at Warrior Fit with Charlotte and Casey, amazing people as well. Charlotte is an amazing PT in the industry. That was a huge experience in lockdown. We were literally about to open the doors of the gym in March the 13th, 2020, and the government announced shut us down. And in 2 days we went online and we went from 0 to 600 membership. It was extraordinary.
Going back to, you don't know where your opportunities will lie.
That's exactly, Lexi.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't know what is it a gift?
You don't know at the time. But it definitely sounds like through your journey that what you've been speaking about, you've said some defining moments that created, or rather the defining moments that helped you move into coming to yoga. You had a defining moment that helped you to come into a space that you had not worked in before, but you had skills that you could bring into that space. And then what was the initial draw to neuromuscular therapy?
You were very aligned, because I was just, and you saying that, I was like, isn't it interesting? Because we don't even know that we are connected to our intuition and our instincts. We don't even know where some stuff is coming from, and we go with it. And all the experiences we have over life contributes to the belief system of confidence in ourselves. We don't know that's what it is at play. Listen, in 2020, Christmas Day 2020, so we're now at the end of that first year of lockdown and COVID, and I had a lovely Christmas dinner at my place, and we had 12 people, and I was suffering very badly from headaches at this stage. And the headaches were becoming so bad by 4:00 in the afternoon on most days. I literally had to put my head down. I wanted to take my head off.
Yeah.
And I'd stepped back from Warrior at this stage because I was really unwell with the headaches. And I didn't realize how confused I was. My husband was flying in and out. No, there was no real consistency or communication with people seeing me. Lily came back for Christmas holidays and noticed it and said, Mum, you need to go to the doctor.
Wow.
So beginning of December, we went to the doctor, and she thought I had a brain tumor. From how I was presenting and my responses and reflexes, she sent me straight off for an MRI. We had an MRI and we couldn't see anything. So I was due to see some specialists in the January. They said, go away, have Christmas, come back in January. Christmas Day, 12 people. If I was ever going to say I felt I was going to die, I felt I was going to die. I just don't know how I got through it. Boxing Day, we had a family dinner with family friends, and she said to me, you are not okay. You need to go to the emergency room now while David is here, and we can support you. And I went. It was 6:00 in the evening, and I felt something building up inside of me that just felt very bad. And I sent Lily away. I didn't want Lily to witness. I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew something was going to happen. And they gave me a CT scan. And in that CT scan, I left. It was very traumatic. I haven't got upset about it for years because we've done a lot of work on it. But I was out for 4 minutes. They couldn't revive me. They put the cuff on my arm. They put the snap on my finger for oxygen, and they put the mask on my face for oxygen. And everything they put on me felt like it was cutting me open. The pain was so intense. And the next thing I was aware of, because I was aware of what was happening, but I couldn't move. I couldn't get outside of my body. And I could hear them bringing the electric paddles in to revive me. And I knew if those electric paddles went on me, it would shoot through. I thought that was going to kill me. And it took every ounce of whatever there is in this world, in this life, in our beings, in the universe, in the spirit, to pull an activity or a movement from my body. And I did. I managed to move my arm and pull the mask from my face and say, no. And they stopped. And my armband, this is just a funny thing, my wristband that they had on with my name says Mary Bugg, because my first name is Mary. And all they saw was Anne. And they kept calling me Anne. And I knew I was Mary. Yes. I knew I was Mary. And so now I'm thinking, it's some Freaky Friday thing where I've changed bodies. It all got a bit psychedelic.
But this is what makes us magical.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So magic is the definition of something we don't understand yet. So they took me back. The only way to describe this, was it a stroke? We were looking for evidence of a stroke. They don't feel they could find enough markers to signify a stroke. Although I did come out of the experience very challenged. I was slurring my words. I couldn't find my words. I had lots of memories I didn't have. I didn't remember people. It's really strange. I knew them. I knew them in the back of my head, but I couldn't out. I just couldn't bring it out. I was walking. I could remember how to walk, but I couldn't initiate the action. And it was really hard work to figure out how to move my leg, one leg forward, one leg back, how to transfer the weight. And there's something through the center of your brain here. I think it's called corpus cerebrum. And it's the apparatus that connects your left and your right side of your brain, left and right side of your brain. And this had jolted. And so it wasn't quite connected and the messages weren't getting through. I was really lucky. There was a neurologist visiting the hospital that day and he heard about me and he came and found me on the ward. For 2 days, they'd paraded everybody in front of me to try and figure out what it was. I had all the monitors on and everything. He came and he sat with me for 2 hours and he talked me through quite a few experiences of things he wanted to figure out what else was going on here. And he actually had quite a holistic approach to strokes.
That's rare.
It isn't it?
That's so rare.
But he already knew what was wrong with me. He absolutely knew, but he wasn't going to tell me. And he tried to get me to go through the life experiences that I had had. He was looking for trauma. He knew he was looking for trauma. And I wasn't presenting. I was very clear with the trauma I had been through that I was aware of. Losing Madeline, situations in my marriage, losing my parents, all these sorts of things. And so he was very confident that I had the ability to understand. I had situational awareness. He was interested that I understood meditation. I understood breath work. I understood movement and consequence. He said, I want you to go back and talk to your psychologist. And I have a very good relationship with a psychologist who I work with online now. I've worked with him for 8 years. It's a healthy thing to have someone, especially doing the work I do now as a sponsor and a mentor. So I went back to him and I said, we need to do this. This is what's happened to me. And I need to talk through things again. And he said, okay, let's go back to your childhood.
And you're like, do we have to do that?
So I sat online with my psychologist. He was online. I was sat here. My husband, David, was sat next to me because I needed some help with formulating my words and being coherent still. We were still learning a lot of things. And so we went back and we talked about a memory. And then it came out of nowhere. I said something like, but she was sitting on the stairs. And my therapist jumped onto it straight away. And he said, who was sitting on the stairs? And I said, Mary Ann.
You.
Yeah. And I started talking about myself in third person. And my husband looked at me as if, what is going on here? It's worse than we thought. And my therapist was like, carry on. What happened? And I was then able to tell him how old I was in that memory and what had happened. I knew the memory was there.
Okay.
But I never assigned any feeling. I never assigned anything to it. And Anil said, my therapist said, this is interesting. And we talked a little bit. We came offline. And the following day, my husband was at work and I was sat at this very table. And I thought, I have a choice here. I can either continue to talk about this and my whole life will change. The lid will come off. Or I can pack this away and I don't think I'll ever come back. I had a video of me doing yoga on December the 25th, 2020, before it happened. And I could move, I could talk, I could walk. 24 hours later, I had nothing.
That's it for part 1 of a 2-part episode with Mary Bugg. We've heard parts of her extraordinary story of resilience. Stay tuned for part 2, where Mary continues to share not only in her personal experience, but how those personal experiences have helped her develop, research, and implement incredible practices, spaces, and philosophies that continue to nurture not just her healing, but the healing of entire communities. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps others find the show. You can listen to The Anatomy of Life on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This show was produced by me, Lexi, with music from Artlist.io. Thank you for listening, and as always, here is to your health.